Hey, Dr. C here with you. So what about sea salt as an added ingredient? By now you know that you've got a really good chance of helping your thyroid heal up and get better results from thyroid hormones by lowering and regulating iodine. And one of the easy substitutes is to use low iodine salt. But what about the salt already in things? A lot of things have sea salt as a secondary ingredient. And yeah, you're eating mostly unprocessed foods, but come on, mustard, some condiments, it's okay to use these things. And yet so many of them have sea salt. So the quick and dirty trick on this one is that if we're talking about less than 500 milligrams of sodium per serving, it becomes negligible. So easy answer there. Take a look at that. If it's less than 500 milligrams of sodium per serving, the sea salt is probably not going to be enough to be relevant. Now, a little more depth on this. So salt and iodine. Sea salt, when it's not branded, you don't want to use that as your daily salt. So we've talked about salt as an ingredient, and now we'll talk about salt like your daily cooking stuff. So yeah, don't use an unbranded sea salt. Pink Himalayan salt is like sea salt. It's from the land. It was from the sea if you go back far enough. And it ends up being about twice the iodine as iodized salt. So safe brands of sea salt, Celtic brand has they're light gray, coarse ground and fine ground that are both negligible in iodine. And Malden's brand, finishing salt, is negligible in iodine. And as far as application, we'll see many things that have a little bit of sea salt as a secondary ingredient, but not high amounts overall. The bigger question is sea salt important? There's something, very appealing about the argument of the ocean. We love to be near it. We love the smell of it, and it evokes so many positive concepts. And the idea of sea salt containing a large variety of nutrients and regular salt being stripped or devoid of those nutrients. These are things that made perfect sense, and I've resonated with pretty strongly in the past. But I've come to realize that salt is not a multivitamin. Sea salt does have more nutrients than regular salt does, but not in a way that becomes relevant. So when you get down to the math, so if sea salt is your main source of salt, that means you're using about a teaspoon or so per day. And what else do you get for nutrients from that? Well, the closest thing that might be relevant is magnesium. So you may walk away with 20, 30 milligrams of magnesium. Now, it's not nothing, but it's not huge. So consider that our bodies need 250 to 350 milligrams. So at best, that'll be a tenth of our day's intake. Again, not nothing, that will contribute toward that. So I consider that, on the edge. But once we go past magnesium, so next up would be iron. So that teaspoon of salt, sea salt, might give you a tenth or 2/10 of a milligram of iron per day. Our bodies need 10 to 18 milligrams per day. So it would take somewhere around 180 teaspoons of salt, which is basically a lethal dose, before you'd get enough iron to make a real difference. And we'll see other minerals as well, potassium. So salt may have a milligram or less of potassium, sea salt might. And that's more than regular salt would. But our bodies need 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams. So yeah, to say that it's there, it's not to say that it's relevant. That same potassium, the tiniest little fleck of spinach has more than that. So these are things we get, but salt is not changing our overall equation for that. So yeah, so I think less about salt as being a multivitamin. And if the diet were so poor that the amount of nutrients in salt mattered, you've got bigger problems. Salt won't fix that. You just got to add in some spinach. You got to add in some intact whole grains, some quality lean proteins. There's just an endless, any unprocessed food you can think of is way denser in all these minerals than salt is. So salt really becomes a matter of cooking and flavoring. And that's its main role. That's what it's really doing. And once I realized that, I started thinking about, well, what do the best flavoring experts do? What do the chefs do? And they like salt that's just clean. And the cleanest we can find is kosher salt and Diamond brand kosher salt. There's also just non-iodized Morton salt you can find, and that's the granules. That works fine too. It does have some caking preservative agents, some people do wish to avoid those. So Diamond brand kosher salt is salt, end of list. There's nothing else there. And the shape of it is one that most top chefs consider ideal for how the physical properties of it work with the food. So that's my favorite. That's what I use the most. All right, Dr. C here with you. Take great care and I'll see you real soon.